Well, for me, it's once more with feeling, as they say in Hollywood. Thanks for being here, everybody. We're going to talk about talent. Now, all the headlines are a lot about layoffs or people not hiring, but there's still a tremendous amount of turnover. People are hired, and also talent acquisition experts and talent management experts have to think of the future when there could be shortages. So we'll be talking about the immediate moment, but also the longer term too. So welcome speakers. I was wondering if each of you could introduce yourself and your role and your company, and as well as maybe a short example of a hiring decision at your company that went well, that turned out well, and why do you think so? So, yeah. Kelly, I'll pick on you first, as I threatened, because you're sitting right here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Steve. Kelly Hunter, Vice President of Global Talent Acquisition at Allied Universal. I've been with Allied for quite some time now, and many people aren't familiar necessarily who Allied is, but we are actually the 7th largest employer in the world. We have 800,000 employees globally, and we operate in over 100 countries. So for what I oversee within Allied is more on the professional side of talent acquisition, so everything from corporate support type positions, operational leadership, executive leadership, and everything from recruiting enablement and operations as well. When it comes to a successful hire most recently, pretty excited that we actually had several internal promotions most recently to a regional vice president level. Women leaders that have joined the organization a little while back and have grown within the company. And you think talent acquisition, you're like, okay, well that's probably internal mobility. But we have the same process when it comes to internal hiring and external hiring. It gives the opportunity for internals to really showcase their overall why. So being able to present that, show what they've done within the organization is critical. And this individual, she came from more of the facilities management, served in the Air Force, and really proved herself over time as well. So really excited just from a sense of our industry and the company of that promotion.
Those are great stories. As we know, the CEO of Walmart started as a truck driver, loading trucks. Yeah. So it's inspiring for other workers. Giulietta.
Hi, thanks, Steve, and thanks, Kelly. Well, I'm very glad to be here. My name is Julieta Casanova. I lead the global COE of talent acquisition, and I also lead the global HR business partners, strategic business partners for Corteva AgriSciences. It's a life sciences and biotechnology company with 22,000 employees. We're also in a lot of countries, 130 countries, so very global, and a lot of change going on, especially in the talent space. Things are shifting when it comes to science and technology. It's very niche, it's very specific type of talent that we need. We all need the same type of skills and capabilities, and we fight for them. And I think the big challenge or interesting thing to do is how do we build more of that? How do we really get more talent interested in science and technology? When it comes to, Steve, your point on a successful story, a challenge we have in the agricultural industry is the mindset of leaders, and some of you might have seen this, we hired from our industry. And this is how we hired, and we need all these years of experience doing, certain thing in certain area. Well, we have challenged that mindset, and we started thinking of okay, what about, expanding our talent pool? What about thinking creatively about bringing in talent from different industries? That was a boomer for a lot of leaders. That was a lot of discussions at a leadership level. But it certainly was worth the discussion and the fight, because we have had a good story. So we hired someone from an industry that we would never looked at, and this person is already bringing a lot of perspectives and new insights to the company. So a lot of things, people can learn, but what are the skills like leadership, and what are these things that we can transfer from one industry to another? And also, how can we, be more creative at the time of, kicking off a position and hiring for talent? So very successful story that hopefully helps us to also build new stories and new cases across the company.
Thank you, Julieta. Shaunique?
Good afternoon, Shaunique Adams, HR business partner with M&T Bank. So I actually support Wilmington Trust, which is the wealth management arm of M&T Bank, part of the global company. As an HRBP, I support several portfolios within wealth, affluent markets, private banking, wealth client planning and strategy, trust services, and first line of defense risk for both institutional client services and wealth. A recent experience that I had from a hiring perspective is within the private banking space, we had a retirement with someone who worked directly into the head of private banking. And we were contemplating external searches versus internal. And just through looking at talent planning and looking at succession and looking at individuals that we've hired recently, we were able to identify someone. Now, we didn't go immediately to post that rec because we really wanted to vet out this internal person who's been in their role in the US market side for about a year. Fortunately, it's worked out for us successfully because we were able to move someone over into a position who brings a tremendous credit, product management background that we're looking for. But even better than that, I think it's just a great story for employees to see mobility and movement. So.
Yeah. And in our own experience having conferences with HR leaders, we've had speakers who were chief HR officers who were previously ministers, police officers, school teachers. So it really speaks to like the nonlinear path, and as TA experts, you want to think with an open mind. So, Julieta, you mentioned that you leverage what you've learned through the Talent Acquisition Center of Excellence at your organization. Can you give us an example or two of what kind of excellent practices that you've learned from that?
Yeah. Well, I would say the talent acquisition COE, as we call it, is transforming significantly. Those of you that are in this space can tell it's changing. The whole talent story is changing for the company. Talent acquisition in particular, at least for us, the vision is really to change from executing on current needs. You know, we have needs in the company, we have open requisitions. Talent acquisition is there to run for them and get the talent quickly. But what about turning more into a strategic partner for the business? And so the practice so far has been building capability in our talent acquisition team to really not only focus on the current needs, but also work hand in hand with the business on understanding the future needs and how do we prepare our pipeline for that. A lot of, I think the other good practice is the way recruiters are positioning just using the data that we have available. We have a lot of data. Maybe the problem these days is that we have more data than we can manage. And so how do we really leverage this data point, all the data insights that we get, and use it to influence our leaders in their hiring decisions, just as the case that I shared with you. But recruiters playing a role of anticipating need, the market trends, the skills that are emerging. All these could be things that the managers don't know. It's not their business. It's our business in TA. So I think those are some of the examples I'll share.
So thinking long-term and using data. Kelly, Shaunique, do you want to add to that in terms of things you've picked up on at the sort of center of excellence level? You may not literally have one, but...
Yeah, I would say just from a sense of the influence, right? So many recruiters say, like, how come I'm not moving forward in influencing my hiring manager? And many of them are like, they're trying to do it over email. They're not necessarily picking up the phone and developing those connections with the hiring manager and truly understanding what those needs look like. So mine is less innovative, more human, and making that level of connection. And very commonly, we'll get an email back from a hiring manager saying, not a fit. It's like, what does that mean? That's not enough for me. Like, I need more. So it's being able to, pick up the phone and hold those leaders accountable as to, why wasn't the right fit? That helped me understand the strengths and the challenges that interview faced, and giving us more feedback.
The personal approach. Shaunique, thoughts on that?
Not on this one.
I remember picking up on what Kelly said was, I used to work at a big company, Time Warner, and you'd try to get some other department to play ball with you, or on say hiring a project and everything. And sometimes you'd have to go to it's like what Return to Office is about. Go to their office and poke your head and think, oh no, he's here, he's come in person. Now I have to talk with him. So that old-fashioned stuff can work just as well as AI almost. Okay, Kelly. With a lot of companies, you're focusing on skills these days, looking a lot at like skills people already have, but also aptitude rather than direct experience. And I'm wondering how that's evolved and how do you see it work in practice?
Yeah, I would say that's the hot topic, right? Like hire for skills. Yeah. And it's something that from a professional, looking at hiring professionals at that TA level, it's something that, the skills are important, but it's understanding also, the values that individual has, the mindset that person has too, and what makes up that. The skills are really like, can they do it? But thinking about that mindset, it's like, how are they gonna do it? What's gonna be their approach? On my team, we were hiring a recruiter, and identified someone that like her resume just like was fantastic, and she had no recruiting experience. She played sports in college, in high school. She was a lifeguard, and she was somebody that like was in inside sales. So she had the sense of researching, questioning, positioning, really identifying all those key skills within that consultative approach. And when she applied, we're like, this person's perfect. Like, she doesn't necessarily come with, like, we can teach recruiting, but all of the mindset skills that she's comfortable with, she comes with this level of confidence. And within my journey, like, I've just celebrated today, it's my 15-year anniversary with Allied Universal, so very excited. Thank you. And it's so cool because, like, I started as a temporary corporate sourcer 15 years ago. And to see my journey, my leaders had their sense of trust and confidence in me, not because I checked every box and have the experience, but because more or less they saw me as like, oh, she's gonna get it done. She's gonna figure it out. She's gonna ask a ton of questions, and she like probably has a close fear of failing as well. So we know we can keep moving her, and I recently moved into a global position, which has been just so exciting. And talk about figuring it out. It's a whole nother world right now. So yeah, just when it comes to that skills-based hiring, it is putting all of the elements of skills, but then the values that person has in mindset.
It's funny, we had a talent acquisition person speaking on a panel, and they said, well, we used to call it competencies, and now we have to call it skills. Fine, whatever. Now it's skills. But anyhow, thoughts from either of you and just on the whole skills approach?
And I guess maybe I'm taking a different direction on it, but I also think too, an area of significance is values hiring, like incorporating how do the company's values or leadership competencies, how does that show up in how you interview? Because someone can have technically the skills or they can have the experience, and then how often does it happen where they show up and there's an ER issue or there's other things that come up from more of a personality fit that was kind of masked to a degree. So I also think being careful and mindful of what we question, of course, being universal across the board, that you're asking all candidates, applicants the same questions, but how do the company values and what the company really aspires to show up in the interview process as well?
It's a good angle. Julietta?
Yeah, I would add on skills. It's, as Kelly said, it's a big topic these days, and everybody wants to jump in because we don't want to be, behind the wave, right? And we want to be there, but we don't know how. And we're all in the same boat. So something that we are doing is to start small. We're starting to do some kind of agile approach for skills-based, and being very targeted. And what I was strategic on was who will partner with me in the organization, in the executive leadership team, who buys in, that will help us kind of drive the concept. So we picked in R&D, the research and development organization. There's a specific area which is regulatory, and the people or the skills that we need in that space, we might have 5 people in the world. So it's very niche. So what we have done was to start from TA in partnership with the business, working hand in hand on a pilot that will bring the people that have skills that would fill the potential needs. We don't have the roles, not that we have open roles to fill in tomorrow, but we had like a work stream, like a little cell of group of people working on defining what are the skills. Let's find the pick, and it's not 1,000, it's the top 3 to 5. And let's go start digging in who out there, and we're global, so now we have the opportunity to look across. Where do we have this? It doesn't matter for what role specifically, but we know we will need this. So we started mapping and using the technology available to map people out and to start reaching out and to do some proactive sourcing. So my comment would be start small, pilot, find your partners, find your sponsors if you're in HR, if you're in TA, and I think that's how you start building small success stories that will make you get there bigger at some point with skills, because skills, it's going to be huge.
Well, that must be, as you said, some of those specialties must get very, well, special. I mean, if you're talking about developing new agricultural products and things, wow. Shaunique, a lot of talent professionals tell us they're flooded with applicants, thousands of applicants these days. Part of it is because of technology. At your company, you've actually used an AI platform to help sort through this, and I'm wondering, to get back to about that, but also how does your thinking of values get filtered through that? Is there a way to test for or figure out, like, what does a person stand for, what are their social skills and things like that even?
No, thank you. So we've recently implemented within the last year Eightfold, which I'm sure a lot of people in this room are familiar with to some degree. And in addition to that, we also have a very robust sourcing team. And I'll tell you, so not only do the recruiters have access to Eightfold, the sourcing team does as well. And even as niche and bespoke as wealth can be at times, we've been able to pretty much find, like, I'd probably say 99% of our talent through our sourcing efforts. What Eightfold is able to provide for us is, I believe there's a concept called communities. So even if you have a requisition and you don't necessarily get to all of the talent, it actually keeps like a reserve of those skills. And so early in my recruiting career, you would save them into an abyss somewhere, and then you had to go search and find them like a needle in a haystack. And my understanding is you can actually go retrieve those people. So if we have another wealth advisor position or another trust officer position surface, we can go back to talent, even people that we might have engaged with. It really helps narrow the funnel too, because it requires that the recruiter has to go in and enter required versus desired skills. And then even after that, our leaders are challenging the recruiters to calibrate the requisitions. How efficient is the match score coming? How successful is the hire? And so it's a tool that is constantly like evolving, but it's been very, very helpful for us. In regards to the social skills, I don't know if there's a way really necessarily to sort through, because usually the skills they're looking for are those required skills that we need or experiences that we need. But even for Eightfold, from how we source from other companies, how we can pull a list of, I don't know, like a market leader in a particular area, it pulls that information, and the guidance that I receive from my partners is that they find it even more effective than LinkedIn, than Indeed, than all of those sourcing tools. So, and in addition, we're also using Microsoft Copilot, sorry. I always get confused. Microsoft Copilot. And so not only has that been helpful to just employees across the board in terms of utilizing the AI platform, but to our talent acquisition peers, it's been very, very helpful. So it really narrows the funnel. And honestly, like, our use of external search firms is minimal in wealth, like seriously minimal, which is almost unheard of. I mean, they're really spectacular at being able to find the talent we need.
So a lot of talent, especially in specialized things or rare skill, wealth management, for example, or crop science. A lot of these people are passive candidates, right? In the sense that you're after them. You know who they are because you had some other encounter, and then you have to court them. Is that,
And you're able to find the people through, like Eightfold literally provides a list of people in the job title you're looking for from US Trust or who, or our competitors. So in terms of direct sourcing, it kind of takes that element out of it in that, LinkedIn offers, which is helpful, of course. I'm not bashing LinkedIn here, please. But at the same time, it's just been a truly valuable resource.
kind of amazing.
I think where AI might fall short a little bit too is like sometimes my recruiters, and just kind of talked about this last week with them, was looking at when somebody applies, and if they're not quite for that particular role, where could they fit? Like if they seem like it's a great resume, somewhere we would want to find them, they're already engaged with our talent brand. They've already expressed interest in the company, which companies like LinkedIn say to us, well, they're the ones that's going to respond back to you, right? So looking at that and saying, okay, hey, fellow coworker in this area here, could you use this person that was applied for sales, was actually a sales engineer, or applied for a leadership role, but it's actually more of a project manager. So there's, I think, opportunity for AI to grow a little bit, to say like, hey, what do you think about this area over here, when they might not necessarily have seen it, but might still be a great fit for it.
I would add, Stephen, this, that we went through the process of TA transformation with Eightfold. Eightfold is a technology that is bringing AI to their kind of sourcing recruiting process. So it's been hard. It's a lot of work, but it works, and there's value business. I always like from an HR side to tell the story to the business. So it's not HR doing crazy stuff for HR that benefits us and makes us better. It's what are we doing? How is this technology also helping you? And really, Eightfold in our case has helped us to like, the feedback is very positive from managers and recruiters. So the whole experience, I think every stakeholder across and along the process has been impacted positively by having more technology. Now, technology could be just that, like a new, just a tool that we have. The real transformation, at least for us, happened in our operating model, because the big question after we made the big investment of bringing the AI and all this cool technology in was, okay, how is this changing how we work? And that was a real, question mark in terms of operating model. And then the truth is, this was really important for us to unlock capacity or create capacity from all the team, recruiters and everybody in the TA team, to really spend more time in the human interaction, more time with the business and anticipating business needs. So this technology is not just the tool, but also the opportunity it creates to unlock more time for recruiters doing other things that are more strategic. So it's been very, very worth.
Kelly, speaking of just AI in terms of exactly what you said, Julieta, what's your favorite thing that AI does that frees you up to do something that you feel is either more satisfying or more effective? Is there a...
How much time do you have?
Oh, okay. 16 minutes and 17 seconds, but don't use it all.
I mean, we have to embrace it. It's exciting every day of how I'm using it on a daily basis, how the recruiting team is using it, honestly. I mean, everything from, you carve out the talent acquisition cycle, you can find something beneficial in every part of the way, right? Like, job description optimization. I talked to a hiring manager in the kickoff call, and everything that I heard from him, well, I have this really old job description. Is this really our job description? So it's like infusing that in something that was so tedious, it would take forever. Now it's like seconds of making it better and sending it over to the hiring manager. They're like, no, that looks great. Or getting it from the hiring manager and it's like 20 bullets of responsibility. And we're like, that's not gonna go well with the job boards. We gotta fix that. So it's things like that, from job descriptions to interview questions to just even like, what am I not thinking of when it comes to a Boolean search? Like, I learned Boolean logic as a sourcer one day, but like, people don't need to know that. Like, AI can, hey, give me a good Boolean search string to be able to find somebody. Or what companies or titles should I be thinking of when it comes to searching for people? So I could keep going on. I'm gonna stop.
Yeah.
Those are great.
No, All of
Go ahead,
us,
you wanna
I
add?
think. I think it's been very, we
Yeah.
learn new ways of doing it every day, and it's amazing.
Shaunique, we touched on this earlier, but maybe we could expand on it a little more in terms of internal mobility. So a lot of people out there, we read all the polls from Gallup and so on, Gartner, people feel stuck in their jobs and they're disengaged and so on. So that seems like a great way to show, to get people more involved and be more optimistic in learning and growing. How do you approach that?
Well, I actually just presented on this last week to one of my clients.
And you didn't bring your slides. Okay, well.
I wanted to save you all the
just
boredom.
wing
I was
it.
like, no, I actually just presented on one of our core competencies is like taking ownership. And the title of it was Leading from Every Seat. And so as I speak with employees just in my day-to-day, how important it is for employees, I think first of all, I need to know and understand and recognize that we all take ownership of our development. And actually the one question I asked really just shifted my whole delivery, and that was, who owns your career development? And I was like, there's no right or wrong answer, just, and they were all looking at me and I'm like, no, I truly want to know what you think. And it just really provided a really robust discussion. But to get to your answer, apologies. When it comes to career development, I was able to share several resources that we offer. We actually just created 2 learning journeys over the last year. One is for leaders and one is for individual contributors, but they all utilize our leadership competencies as core. And so I focused in on delivering results, influencing, and influencing I was able to speak to because, and influence, and then also talking about leadership, that it's not necessarily a position or a title, but that every day in your role, day in, day out, how you build collaborative relationships with your colleagues, how you influence leads to that. And so by really sharing the resources that we have, we've recently had 2 within the last couple of months. Talent acquisition had open town halls across the organization. We've also offered opportunities where employees could have their resumes reviewed by talent acquisition as they're posting. They can have an opportunity to go through a mock interview as they're preparing, depending on how long you've been in your role, because we have a lot of tenured people at M&T Bank. One of the things I first noticed when I started was people were decades in the organization, moving around. And so often with that, your resume may be a bit stale, or who knows, you may not even have a resume because you've been there so long and you've moved around. So those opportunities and sharing those resources, that's something that I really just take a lot of pride in as a business partner too. I support about 500 employees across all of my client groups, and I really just try to highlight on what resources can I share, because there's a lot of information thrown at them from the enterprise, from HR divisionally, and really just being able to speak to what we have and how they can take ownership. And then even with the opportunities, encouraging my hiring managers and leaders to share their openings, not only within their immediate team, but within the broader division, so that people are aware. So like the story I shared at the beginning with the person that came over from Wealth Markets, well, no one's going to know that we have an opening if there's not conversations, if it's not communicated, and so,
Great. Thanks for adding that detail. You have a lot of very thoughtful programs, it seems like, to make this happen. I want to ask about trust. So I was reading in the Wall Street Journal the other day that trust in America is down and no one trusts anyone. It was very kind of gloomy, but it's in particular in the job market with AI coming along and just technology in general, you're not sure if the candidate is real, and the candidate might not be sure if the job is real, and they might be approached by sinister forces who want their information from them. Kelly, you brought this up first, I think, and I'm sure you're all facing it, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, to your point, it's a concern for everyone. In 6 months, are we going to know what's a real video and a fake video? And that's really alarming. I think within AI, there's ways that there's bots for people that are applying in certain situations. There's individuals from a candidate situation where they're using AI to listen and answer over video. And as the concerns that are talked about from a sense of how companies are infusing that human element into to not necessarily losing that. So I really push from a sense of the professional side is making sure that we're bringing individuals back into the office to interview. You get that sense of, why do I want to work here as well, and connecting with people. So in COVID, there were so many offers that just happened virtually, and they never met anyone. And now we're really making that an emphasis to meet people in person. Even if all of the interviews went great, like, has anybody met them in person yet? Let's do that.
Yeah, yeah. Make sure they're real. Julieta, any thoughts on that? Or
Yeah, I'll just add that with new technology, with tremendous change, there's also new risks that we don't even know. So I don't think I've spent as much time with our privacy and compliance teams as I did over the past year, because every new technology, everything AI related, everything needs to, like what I've learned along the process was to really involve the right people. A lot of question marks. So people that's normally the experts, like there's no experts in things, like there are problems that we cannot even anticipate. So just staying close. What worked for us was staying close with these departments, with compliance, with privacy. Also, it's not, if in a global company, it's not the same for every country. So you cannot go and say, this is our AI, new system, and the AI that we're introducing. Each country has its own regulations. So that also adds some interesting dynamics for us in TA to think you cannot go for it in the same way. You will need to customize, and again, each country is also navigating their own kind of maturity level in this topic. So I think we're all learning, and again, just getting close or as close as possible to those that can help us. It's not just TA, it's legal, it's compliance.
Yeah.
That helps.
And compliance just doesn't sound like fun. It's just not a thing, that people
I know.
necessarily, but it seems like a more and more necessary thing to be aware of. Shaunique, especially in the financial world, do you have concerns about hiring the wrong person, or how do you safeguard against that?
So I know that we have, several tools within the, not only during the pre-boarding aspect, but of course throughout the interview selection process. There's steps and measures that are taken to ensure safety.
So it kind of ramps up as you get more serious about it.
Absolutely, and particularly, I forget, there's a phrase we have at M&T, but it's literally like you're meeting the whole family when you interview. There's probably at least 4 to 5 rounds of interviews. So with that, different groups are speaking and collaborating throughout to determine as we move forward, and particularly in roles such as risk, or even in finance or compliance, even more so.
Wow. Julieta, and we have a few minutes left. You mentioned just sort of thoughtfully about how talent acquisition and the whole process can have an important impact on a company's value proposition. So the interaction that a prospect or a candidate might have with the company, and what they learn and what you tell them, that's all part of the whole overall, I wouldn't say sales process, but it's about like having a good reputation. What are some key elements that you think about?
Yeah, absolutely. And Kelly, you just mentioned the importance of the human factor, and we have all this new technology, but we keep it up with the human interaction as key part of the process. I do believe TA has a key role of being the driver of our reputational. Our reputation for the company, our values. We need recruiters, and we need people in talent acquisition that understand the business, that understand the industry and the company as well. So they are the very first impression that a candidate will have. And we all know, we all have been there, we know how important it is, how we feel in that first date, right? So it counts, it matters, and what we do is really to be intentional in building that experience in the way we want to. And again, I think TA has that pretty unique power that not a lot of people has in the organization, which is opening the doors and giving the very first kind of welcome. Even before you become an employee, TA has that power, and we need to leverage it. And we try to be, again, very, very intentional on designing that experience. It doesn't matter, the technology is actually allowing us to have more time for that. So it's a good thing.
The HR COEs are so interconnected when you think of employee experience and talent acquisition. And one of the things that I share is companies spend so much time and money to hire. The cost to replace is exponential compared to the cost of trying to retain someone, right? And so when you think of the time you've spent and the energy to hire, and then even before you start, so prior to my current role, I worked in employee experience and onboarding for several years, and that's something I can talk about till it's time for you to leave. But it's just something that's so important because many people will make a decision within the first 90 days whether or not they're going to stay and they see a long-term fit. That's when they pretty much are determining, is everything that I was told or what was conveyed to me in the interview process, is that really showing up? And so I think about, just not to get on an M&T rant, but my recruitment experience was probably one of the best I ever had in my professional career. My onboarding experience even surpassed that. Emails coming in, day one scheduling me for orientation. There was no gap. My leaders reached out to me before I started, and oftentimes with us in HR generally, regardless of the COE we're discussing, it's the little things that make a big difference. But that gap between the TA part and often the pre-boarding part, the onboarding part, and onboarding, when I think of it holistically, I think of that as really the first year in role or less, depending on the experience, for that person to be truly competent. So you cannot underscore just the value of the value proposition and how that shows up for people.
And your bank has a very distinct corporate culture that's different from Citigroup or JP
Right,
Morgan
absolutely.
Chase. It's based in headquarters is Buffalo, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, and we have just a bit of time left. Kelly, I wanted to ask you about frontline workers. I know that you're focused mainly on the professionals and the leaders. However, they're supervising hundreds of thousands of frontline workers. And what are some of the special challenges and innovations that you might put into place in finding them and keeping them? Because this is an area where you could have turnover that would be very expensive.
Yeah, it's a great question. Allied Universal has done a ton of work to take a blended approach when it comes to the human element coupled with technology. We're using things like digital hiring assistants to help and capture the online application, understand really the preferences of a security officer. Do they want to work inside in more of a concierge type environment? Do they want to walk around in more of that protector and ensure that sense of safety? And it could be snowing outside, right? They have to be able to work in all weather. So we've done a lot of work there. We've done a ton of work when it comes to improving our sense of communication through the interview process. And then when it comes to an individual getting through that initial interview process, they then have an opportunity, if they move forward, to actually speak with somebody right then and there virtually. And that's when they're getting that human connection. It surprises people sometimes if I could click a link as soon as I get that link and I can talk to somebody right then and there. Some people are like, oh, I'm going to schedule. I'll click it later. But it enables people to be able to get conditional offer that same day, which is fantastic, because sometimes in that hourly workforce, it is a speed to hire. They're looking for a position right now, and it's so important to them. So we've just done a ton of work around that as well.
All right, thank you. Well, in the minute and a half we have left, I just wanted to ask you about the young generation, which we're hearing about. They're having trouble finding work and so on. What are some of are there gaps between their expectations and what's really available? Could you each give us just one 30-second snapshot of your experience with Gen Z?
They're very interested on the wealth side in financial advising, and so we're really looking to create developments utilizing our current programs to bring them in and really help develop them. So there's certainly a huge interest in our side.
I'll just add that we're not hiring in entry levels. We're not hiring for repetitive works, type of tasks. We are hiring for problem solving. We're hiring for creativity. We're hiring for potential. We had to rethink our entry level programs, graduates, and other programs that we have, because the needs are different, and a new gen wants to be challenged, and they want to solve problems and big problems. So we looked at our programs, and we are looking for ways to making very meaningful. So putting them to work in different projects and having mentoring, like different things that will really accelerate their learning, because that's what we see they want.
Great. Kelly?
I would say, Allied Universal, we're the mission-based type company that we're at when it comes to resonating with individuals coming in Gen Z, and then also just that sense of engagement. So many of that generation, they want to start being in person and having that sense of connection. They were home during COVID for so long, and while it's comfortable and cozy, you want to grow, and you need to have that rapid fire of building those skills, and how are you going to do that? So it's usually immersing yourself with the leaders around you in order to do it.
Well, thank you. I actually have a Gen Z at home who just graduated from college, and he landed an interview at a big prestige company and had the interview, and he didn't like how it went afterwards with they didn't get back to him fast enough and everything, so he thought, I'll do feedback, just like we do now with our professors and our friends. And was very candid with them about their shoddy process of dealing with people. He got their attention, really got their attention, but not in the way he intended. So I told him, Charlie, as far as you're concerned, especially in the entertainment field, as far as you know, everything is awesome, and he seemed to get it.
And
So.
Steve, just to close, I also have a teenager at home. I think for the companies, we're trying to catch up with AI and the new technology. These guys know how to do it. I don't know how, but they were born knowing how to do it in some cases. So they just come in and they can really help the company to drive on the kind of adoption of what's coming and help others as well. So they have a role to play, I think.
Oh, they got a lot of potential.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks to each of you. Thank you for being here and all these candid insights. And that's a wrap, folks. Thank you for being here, all of you in the audience. Thank those of you who use the app. That's great. We appreciate it. And you really helped make our 76th conference a success. Please give us your feedback in the email that you get, and join us for virtual events all year round, every week. And my last announcement is that the bar is open, because after all, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? So fly, Eagles, fly, and let's go, Phillies. Come on.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good way to end it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.